Alrighty. I was actually really on time for a change today. I wasn't rushing to try and get things going and try and figure out where things were. So it was a new one for me. Okay, today I am still experimenting with the REST API. I'm going to be looking at extending the REST API today, specifically modifying responses. Specifically this chapter in the REST API handbook under extending the REST API, modifying responses. And I'm going to primarily be looking at using the register REST field and register meta functions. Register REST field seems to allow us to add custom fields to API responses. And this is different from adding a custom field to a post. So we're going to look at how that works. Registers a new field on an existing object type. Oh, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just a specific field. Anyway, we'll dive into it. We'll figure it out. And then we will look at register meta, which we kind of touched on last week. So we're going to look at the two differences and see how they work. And just kind of dive through all these things. So that's the focus for today. Depending on how far I get, I might also cover custom endpoints. That might need to be a whole topic on its own. So we'll see how today goes. I'm going to focus on modifying responses today. Okay. So this is my GitHub issue. I'll be leaving myself notes here. So we'll start by just adding the doc link. And I have finding up recognizing the music, and that doesn't make me happy because I don't like the music to be the same. I have the Learn REST API plugin installed. It adds a menu item. These are all the things that we've been fiddling with. I may or may not create a new admin menu page today for some new things. We'll see. We'll see what I end up doing. I may also end up just using Postman to test these things out. I don't know. Anyway. So extensible, how to use additional data, how to add additional data to the responses of default endpoints using register REST field and register meta. Add fields to any of the object types supported by the REST API. These custom fields can support both get and update operations. Okay. Changing or removing data from core REST API endpoint responses can break plugins or WordPress core behavior and should be avoided wherever possible. So that's worth noting. Adding fields is not dangerous, so if you need to modify data, it's much better to duplicate the field instead with your modified data. Removing fields is never encouraged. If you need to get back to a smaller subset of data, use the fields parameter. Okay. If you must remove fields, you should ensure the behavior is opt-in, for example, by providing a custom query parameter to trigger the field removal. Okay. The API cannot prevent you from changing responses, but the code is structured to strongly discourage doing so. Internally, field registration is powered by filters, and these can be used if you have no other choice. All right. So that's worth mentioning. Okay. Register REST field and register method. Register REST field may be used to add arbitrary fields to any REST API response. It can be used to both read and write data using the API. To register a new REST field, you must provide your own callback functions to get or set the field's value, as well as manually specify your own schema definition. Okay. Register meta is used to whitelist an existing custom meta value for access through the REST API. By setting a meta field show in REST parameters to true, that field's value will be exposed on the .meta key and then post response, and WordPress will end up setting up the callbacks for reading and writing. This is much simpler than register REST field one caveat. Prior to WordPress 4.9.8, meta fields set to show in REST using register meta are registered for all objects of a given type. Okay, now I did register meta there. Okay. If one custom post type shows a meta field, all custom post types will show that field. Okay. As of WordPress 4.9, it's possible to use register meta with the object subtype argument that allows one to reduce the usage of the meta key to a particular post type. Yeah, okay, so register meta. Object subtype. So let's see what that means. Single type string K. So I want to have a look at something. I'm going to open up post menu. I've got my WordPress workspace. I've got get posts. I'm going to hit send. I'm going to see there's the meta. Okay. I wonder if this means it needs to have a URL for it to work. Okay, so let's delete some posts. So I'm going to delete all of these except for High World. Empty the trash. Okay, so now I should find a post. So now I'm going to create a post. I have already set up admin my username and password for this. Did that in the last session. Let me just revoke that password and create a new one. Create a specific post one. Okay. That's the place to put it. Save that. Send. Great password. Okay, let's try it again. Oh, because it's posting to the wrong. Okay, so let's save this. I'll have to change this later. Let's do that later. Okay, so that worked. Was I passing in the URL? Yes, I was. There's the meta. Okay, let's check the get posts. I didn't specifically address the possibility of using ACF for custom fields in this tutorial, in this workshop. I did mention it last week, that effectively what ACF does is it uses the same internal things. So I don't use ACF, but I believe in one of the workshops somebody mentioned that you just need to enable the custom field to show in REST, which is what I covered in the workshop last week. If you want to watch that workshop, I can share the link with you. Let me find that quickly. Where was it? Here we go. So in this workshop, I specifically talk about custom fields, and I talk about how to. Why is it not copy pasting? Let me find it here. No, 100%. I just don't use ACF, but I believe. So let me just paste that there. So that's where I discuss registering custom fields and how to access them, sort of the default way. But while we're here, let's just have a look at advanced custom fields. And I think there is in the documentation, there is, if you do a search, REST API, there it is, integrating custom fields. Yeah, so when you create your custom field, you just need to set the show in REST to true or false. And then it'll show up in the REST API and you can query it and all that. But I don't use ACF, so I can't guide you there. But it should effectively be the same. Okay, what was I doing? I was doing this. Okay, so now I'm going to see Postman post URL there, and then there's the hi post. Okay, so there's the URL. That's what I expected to see. Okay, good. Okay, yeah. If they do allow you to do that, great. As I say, I don't use ACF, so I can't speak on how ACF works. But that's, can you please explain why you're using Postman? Sure. So Postman is basically an API testing tool. It's what I use as a default to test any REST API. You can also test other APIs. I think you can test SOAP and XML and various other APIs. So Postman is what I use when I want to test my endpoints, specifically if I'm creating custom endpoints or custom resources or whatever. If I want to test it on the WordPress site, I either need to write some code or I need to use curl on the command line. And curl on the command line is a little bit more tricky. So I use Postman to test API responses and requests. What's cool about it, Postman as well, is you can, somewhere here, can't remember now where it is, but there's somewhere where you can actually, here we go, save response. No, that's not what I want. I can't remember now. Maybe it's up here somewhere. You can actually export the request as a call request or as a whatever else, and then run the command line. So it's just a tool that I use to test API endpoints. It's easier than writing some code to test it. Yeah, it's just another tool I use when I'm testing things. I also covered this in the workshop that I linked through to earlier, which is higher up in the chat. So if you want to see me talk about it there, that's a good place to do it. Yeah, just an API testing tool, and I use it to test any API request that I'm working with. Okay, so what I wanted to do was I wanted to check whether, because according to what I was reading now in the documentation, if I've registered meta on a post, it should be registered on a page as well. So what I want to do is I want to, no problem. Sorry that you missed that. It should be in that workshop there somewhere. It was when we started talking about the authentication towards the end of the workshop. We discussed Postman, and I showed you very briefly how to set it up, how to set up a GET request and a POST request in Postman. Okay, I wanted to duplicate the post request, and I wanted to call it posts page, because I want to create a post request to create a page. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to see if there's a URL meta field, just to verify. Postman page. Okay, authorization is there. Good. One cool thing about Postman is you can also save variables like usernames and passwords and then reuse them. I'm not going to do that now, but it's quite handy. Okay, so this should create a, so I want to post it to pages. Okay, post page, cool, let's save that and let's send that. Okay, that's created a page. Post type is page, that's confirmed. Let me just make this a little bit bigger. Yeah. And let me see if it's got the URL meta. Yes, it does. Okay. So that's good to know. So we can get back to that when we do register meta. But that's good to know. So that can, so let me make a note here. Register meta. If the object subtype argument is left out, it will be registered on all custom post types, arguably parent type. So if we do it on post, it'll be available on pages, on any other custom post types we registered. So that's good to know. Good to mention that. Okay. Prior to WordPress 5.3, register meta could only support scalar values, string, integer, number, boolean. WordPress 5.3 adds support for the object and array types. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so we'll get to those as well when we get there. Okay. Let's move on to adding custom fields. Register REST field is the most flexible way to add. What did I say the big difference was? So this is registering fields, and this is registering existing meta values. Oh, I see. So we could just use register REST field instead of register meta. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Most flexible way to add fields to REST API response objects. It's parameters object, attribute, the name of the field, and then arguments. Each of the keys is optional. Fields should be registered in the REST API init action. Using this action rather than init will prevent the field registration from happening during requests from WordPress that do not use the REST API. Now that's cool. So I want to register a new field on my post. So let us register REST field, and let's register in REST API init. Okay. Let's make a note here. Register REST field should be hooked into REST API init. Okay. So I'm going to leave this meta key here for a second. And I'm going to say action REST API init. Let's do it like that. That's perfect. And then we will create the function. Callback. And then what am I going to add? Well, let's create a custom post type called books. So to do that, I'm going to search for register post type. Actually, let's do this. Let's see, I think we do this in the init. That's recommended. Should not be before the edit action. So, okay. So let's create a custom post type for this plugin. Init. And call it WP Learn plugin init, just for the sake of being obvious. And then in here, let's register. I'm going to see if Copilot can do some code for me. That was cool. I love when Copilot does that. I didn't even type anything. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it a comment and I'm going to say, register a book. Swallowed wrong there. A book custom post type. Yeah. So then we'll let Copilot do its thing. Type. Copilot's not there. Yeah, oh, it was there. It was almost there. Last one, I'll do that. There we go. Book. Okay. Love it. Custom post type book. And I like to just format these things a little bit cleaner. There we go. Books, public, true, has archive true, that's fine. Showing rest true. Sports, title, editor, thumbnail, excerpt, custom fields, revisions, that's all fine. I'm going to take out post formats, take out attributes, leave custom fields. I'll leave things how I'm using the way it is. That's perfectly fine. So there's my custom post type. Okay, so now I haven't registered any post meta on the custom post. So now what I want to do is I want to register a REST field from the custom post. So let's go just REST field. So let's do this. Let's say register the ISBN REST field on the book custom post type. Let's see if Copilot can do that for me. Register REST field. Yes. Book. There we go. Book ISBN. Okay. So it has a get callback, an update callback, and the schema. All right. So let's see what we need to know about there. Okay, so let's go and read about these things. Get callback. The callback function used to retrieve the field value. Default is none. The field will not be returned in the response. The function will be passed to the prepared data object. The field default is none. The field will not be returned. The function will be passed. Update callback. The callback function used to set and update the field value. Default is null. The value cannot be set or updated. The function will be passed to an object like wpost. Okay. Let's see what examples we have. So they're just using get post meta, which I guess is fine. So what's the pro and con of doing one versus the other? Why would you do one and why would you do the other? I wonder if it was a case of the one was added before the other. The register REST field was added in 470. Register a new field on an existing WordPress object type. Okay, and register. So register meta was around before register REST field. trying to understand why they would use one over the other, and which one is better to use. I feel like adding the show and rest of true is the easier, because here you have to actually specify callbacks. However, if you want to do something with the data, the register meta and setting to show and rest true will just add it to the default things. So save it or to get it, and that's it. Using the register rest field. I wonder if you can register meta and then register rest field. Let's have a look here. Register rest field. Field should be registered. Okay, so it doesn't talk about the register rest field is when you want to specifically store getting so I wonder what could happen if I took this out. That's essentially the same thing. If I take this out and then register the field. So why would you just do this? I wonder if you can register a rest field without it. So here I'm doing ISBN. Will this work? Let's find out. Okay. So let's say WP learn get ISBN, and then let's say, yeah, let's just return a number for the sake of returning some. Let's see if that will work without the meta key actually being registered. I should be able to go book now. So if we duplicate posts, change it to books. This is why I like using Postman, because I can very quickly do this. Book. Books maybe? No, it is book. I'm not getting any data there. Because I don't have books. Let's create a book. Okay. I've only got the URL field because I've assigned it to post, so it's available everywhere. So that's fine. So let's publish this. Okay. And then let's get the books. Okay, so there's my book. It has the URL meta. It doesn't have ISBN. Oh no, oh! Okay, so it's a top level field. It's not a meta field. That's cool. Because I could now, for example, okay, so that's why. So when you register a field, it's not meta, it's top level. Okay, now I'm getting some answers. Alrighty. So let's make a note of there. Register rest field should be register rest field creates a top level REST API field on the resource. Okay. So I'm going to say not meta. So what you can do then is you can store it as a meta. So if you, I want to see what happens if I, so what I want to do now is I want to register. I'm going to stick this into the init as well, just because that's where it really should be. So I'm going to register this on URL. It's on the post. And then after the book custom post type, I'm going to register the ISBN meta of the book. ISBN. And I'm not going to say show in REST. There we go. So this just do the ISBN field, meta field. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay. REST field and the book custom post type. Okay. All right. So then this will return get post meta. So now I'm going to assume that the get callback returns the post. Get the function. So this doesn't get the function will be pass the prepared object data. Pass the prepared object data. What does that mean? The prepared object data. Yes, that'll be the post. Post and it'll be a PHP variable. So then I should be able to go post ID. Actually, I should call it a book. I thought it actually will be a book. That'll return the ISBN. Perfect. And then we need the rest. Update ISBN. And it receives the function requestable object like to post. Value object. And that's worth mentioning. So it gets the value and the book. Update post meta book ID, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that'll get fired when we update the post. Okay. So let's do a send. Okay, so here's my first book. It has a URL in the meta. Perfect. It doesn't have an ISBN because I haven't saved an ISBN on it yet. So that's right. So even though it's storing it as meta, I'm actually returning it as a top level field. So now if I duplicate this and I post a book, post book, save that, and then I want to my postman book. This is my postman book. Status publish, and then I want the URL, and then I also want to pass in the ISBN. So I should be able to do this and pass in, let's say, John 123. John 123, and that should work. Yeah, so that should create the post with ISBN of John 123. So let's send that. That seems to have worked happily. There's the title, there's the content, there's the excerpt, there's the URL. It didn't post the ISBN. Okay. So there's clearly something wrong with my code. It's just happening in the database. There's the ISBN. It's on post ID 51. If I go into that post, there's my postman book. There's the ISBN. So that worked. So why is it not returning it? Look at the code. No, not this window. Get post meta key single. Created a single. I wonder if get post meta only works. No, let's have a look. I wonder if I need to do it this way. I need to return it book. Let's see if that works. Kind of maybe makes sense. Because it's on the book, not the post. And that's actually a good lesson to learn. So I'm going to do that. Let's see if that works. Okay, so let's go back to your books. My postman book, still not having an ISBN. My new book. Okay, now is where I'm going to treat outrageously. So I'm going to use, I hope I'm going to use the WP shell command, which is the content. Okay, I need to say it. Need to log into my local environment. Oh, lost. This doesn't work. Just open up Chrome because things are happening in my life that I need to deal with. I'm on live stream, so you're gonna have to bear with me for a second, folks. Okay, so somewhere along the line, something's not quite working the way I want it to. Okay. The ISBN is being set. Okay, I'm going to have to install WPCLI on my local server quickly. Shouldn't take long. Don't know why I don't have it installed already. I thought I did. Please bear with me while I do that. No, I don't want to do it there. Do it there. And do that. And do that. Okay, and then I want to switch back to. Yay. Okay. So what this does, this allows me to run arbitrary bits of WordPress code in an interactive shell. I'm just going to need to get the book ID. So it's book 51. Let's just verify that. My Postman book, there's the ID. So it's book ID. Okay. So what I need is this code. And PHP Storm has this wonderful thing called scratches, where I can just dump PHP code. So I'm going to just do this and see what's what here. 51. Let's see what's doing here. Okay, so it's definitely not getting ISBN metadata in the book. No. Echo get post meta 51 ISBN. That works. So why didn't it work earlier? It's frustrating. That should work. But it's not. Let's fix the schema is not set. That's probably why. Okay. Let's see if that works. Nope, still not returned. Let's update the ISBN to be true in the rest of the guide. Same that. Now we should see. Maybe it's cached or something. The REST API caches the response in like a transient or something. It's probably what that is. So let me just see something here. See if that's expected to return. No, that's working. So somewhere in my code, there's something wrong somewhere. Okay, this is frustrating me. So that works. That doesn't. I wonder if that book is incorrect. Let's have a look. Probably, that's probably right. So here I can go error log and I can print. Error log is a PHP function. You can do message type. So we can go guitar book true, return it, and then close that. And if I've got my debugging on, which I have, it'll output that debug log, which is currently showing me some issues, which is probably what my problem is. So let's delete that. And let's see what that is supposed to be. Oh, it's an array. It's not an object. It's an array. Okay. Function we pass the prepared object data. See, I saw the word object and I thought it was an object. It's not, it's an array. All right. So it'll be book ID. There. That should do the trick. We might want to do that in the, might want to make a note of that. Get callback. Let's make a note of that. So get callback is passed an array of the prepared data. Update callback is passed the resource object. Okay. Okay. So now I should be getting somewhere. Yay! Okay. Right, so now I know what register rest field does. It actually registers a top level field. Register meta just exposes an existing field. We've already used that, so we can mention that. Let's look at the schema. What's that about? Custom fields. Yeah. Okay. And you can show responses and things, which is handy. So this variable uses it. Okay, register meta, show rest true, so that'll be meta fields. So we've done that already. It will be good, however, to mention about the fact that it's top level and bottom level of that. We can talk about post type specific meta. We can talk about per meta maybe. Let's see what this object meta type is all about. JSON object. Oh, so you can have it, you can pass it as an array. It might be worth showing this object. I think it'll be good to mention these things, but I don't feel the need to dive into them. Maybe not. We'll see. Okay, I think what I've got is enough for this one. I don't think I'm going to go into these different types. I think maybe I'll cover them, but I don't think we'll dive into them in the code. I think it'll be good to show the use of Postman to test all this stuff out. So I'm not going to actually build anything. I just want to check in the event this week. If I've specified that ideally folks have Postman installed. If I haven't, it might be a good idea to mention that. I have said Postman, so okay, cool. Yeah, I will leave that out. We're going to do the code, but then we'll test it in Postman. So I'm not going to build anything. We're going to do tests. But I think that's enough for that. And then I'll just talk about the rest of these things here. We'll just do overview of different types. Overview of links. We'll just leave that like that. Let's pause the restore project. Okay, I think that's everything. I'm also hitting on the hour, so I think that's a good way to wrap this up. I'm glad that I tested all that out. Glad that I have some working code that I can look at. I'm going to just quickly exit here, and then just create a new branch for the next version of this. I can commit this code somewhere. And we'll go modifying sponsors. I'll clean this up a little bit later. And I'll push this to the branch. Push origin base 5. Okay, and let's make sure that code has been pushed. Okay, so base version 5. Okay, so there it is. Move that to the init. Register in the field in the REST API init, and then the callbacks, and we'll just keep it nice and simple. And I'll add comments and things to that later. Okay, that's it. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with all the information. If you'd like to see the more prepared version of this, please do join me on Thursday. I will have slides, and I will have links, and I will have all kinds of other fun things. Sorry, I'm just removing things from my OBS setup that are weirding me out. But yeah, hopefully you learned something today. Next week I'll be diving into, what will I be diving into next week? The next chapter in this documentation, which is adding custom endpoints. But yeah, join me on Thursday for the more prepared version of this, where I don't fumble around and get stuck. All right, folks, that's me for today. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Cheers.